Good morning, welcome to CATEX-TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. This is a live broadcast from Princeton, New Jersey. Today is Tuesday, November 23rd, 2010. It's 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's 4:30 p.m. in London. In Mexico City, it's 10:30 a.m. If you need to reach us during the broadcast, you can phone in toll-free at 1-866-67-CATEX. Overseas, our AOL instant mail address is CATEX-TV. We have two articles of note that came to light just before we came on the air. Saudi Prince Al-Walid has apparently purchased $500 million worth of stock in General Motors. The prince is already the largest single stakeholder in the American bank Citibank. His share in GM will be less than 1%. Also, American International Group has announced that the U.S. Treasury has hired the investment banking company Greenhill & Company to help the Treasury manage its investment that it still has in AIG. Greenhill could receive up to $500,000 a month in fees. That's $6 million a year. And our main news, well, the main news today is the activity going on in the Korean Peninsula, actually just a little bit to the west of it. North and South Korea exchanged artillery fire today after North Korea shelled an island near the western disputed border. At least 2 South Korean Marines were killed. Dozens of buildings were set on fire. The South Korean Air Force scrambled F-15 Tomcat jets that did considerable bombing activity in the area. South Korea says that no doubt numerous North Korean soldiers have been killed. Most of this seems to be happening, from what we're reading, in an attempt by Kim Jong-il to burnish the military credentials of his son, his successor, Kim Jong-un. Just before he came on the air, the South Korean president indicated that an enormous retaliatory response is required on his part. So this, hopefully this will blow over, but you never know. Well, there are big sighs of relief at Boeing this morning, if this is true. The French newspaper La Tribune is blaming the electrical fire on Boeing's 787 Dreamliner earlier this month on so-called foreign object damage, or FOD. The report blames a tool forgotten in a cabinet which caused a short circuit, and it implicates the French supplier to the 787 Zodiac. And analyst Robert Stallard said that the report was probably a positive if the source of the fire can be traced to an errant tool rather than to a system design issue. No kidding. Boeing, its suppliers, and the FAA are studying the fallout from the fire and how the backup systems responded. The same analyst Stallard said, "We expect Boeing to provide more clarification on the cause of the fire and what the impact is likely to be on the delivery schedule." Well, there's good news for Airbus. Qantas Airways, Australia's biggest carrier, is going to resume Airbus A380 services on the 27th of November. This will be 23 days after it grounded its fleet of super jumbos. The chief executive officer, Alan Joyce, will be on the first flight. He's going to put his money where his mouth is. The flight will go to London from Sydney via Singapore. The carrier is going to conduct further inspections with Airbus, with regulators, and with Rolls-Royce before resuming other routes, but it's going to start the Sydney to London via Singapore route. Qantas has begun modifying as many as 16 of the Trent 900 engines following the November 4th blowout, which caused the grounding of all the A380s. One analyst said, "It's like if there was a shark attack in the previous week. It wouldn't stop me from going into the water the following week as long as the shark is caught. We assume that all airlines will meet strict safety standards." The airline is also due to receive 2 new super jumbos next year. Apparently the fallout from this has been relatively mitigated because Qantas was able to deploy 747s on the route. Macquarie Group said in a note that the cost in business interruption to Qantas will be probably no more than 20 million Australian dollars. And in Cambodia last night, a tragic event happened. At the conclusion of a festival that marked the end of the monsoon period, thousands of people were trying to cross a small bridge from an island to the mainland in the middle of a river, and a stampede ensued, killing at least 378 people. This was in Phnom Penh, in the capital. It was apparently a grisly scene. Horrific television footage was aired on state TV in Cambodia last night. The Prime Minister is calling it the country's biggest tragedy since the reign of the Khmer Rouge back in the 1970s. The stock market is down about 175 points right now. We'll go to a word from our sponsor. The U.S. Commerce Department announced this morning that the American economy grew faster than previously estimated in the third quarter. It's still not enough, however, to address the high unemployment here. GDP was revised up to an annualized 2.5% from 2%. Analysts had been expecting an increase up to 2.4%. The economy expanded at a 1.7% rate in the second quarter. There are signs activity picked up mildly as the fourth quarter began, but growth will still probably remain below the 3.5% rate that most economists say is going to be needed to reduce the 9.6% unemployment rate. As we reported yesterday, the chief executive of Willis North America, Don Bailey, is leaving Willis to go to Allstate. And today, CEO, actually Chairman Joe Plumeri, announced that Vic Krause is going to be the new chairman and chief executive of Willis North America. Krause previously served as Willis North America's president and chief operating officer. He's going to report directly to Willis Group chairman and chief executive Joe Plumeri. In addition to his new post, Krause has been named a member of Willis's executive committee. He's been with Willis North America since January of '97. Here was a story in Insurance Day today. U.S. property and casualty insurers face potential losses of between $2 billion to $4 billion from their holdings of municipal bonds. Moody's Investor Service describes that this sum is manageable. Moody's said that the muni bonds comprise about 27% of the P&C sector combined investment portfolio. That number is about $370 billion overall. But that potential losses would not be substantial, even under a, quote, severe stress scenario. Moody's said that the P&C company losses on investments in munis would be offset by the $10 billion in interest income that they earn on those securities every year. Moody's came out with the report 2 days after the Wall Street Journal's Heard on the Street column cautioned that the property and casualty sector's holdings of muni bonds could be a storm rivaling a major hurricane. Well, in the United States, there's much ado about something, presumably. There's a 3-year insider trading investigation that's shifting into high gear now. The FBI has raided the offices of 3 large hedge funds. It coordinated raids in New York City, Stamford, Connecticut, and Boston. FBI agents seized documents at the offices of Level Global Investors, Diamondback Capital Management, and Lock Capital Management. The FBI, quote, is executing court-authorized search warrants in an ongoing investigation, they said. Now, Level Global and Diamondback are both run by former managers of Steve Cohen's giant SAC Capital Advisors hedge fund. A spokesman for SAC, which was not raided, declined to comment. It's presumed that more indictments are going to be underway. Goldman Sachs went down about 3+% yesterday following news that investigators are also examining whether Goldman bankers had leaked information about deals. Goldman declined to comment. Well, in our final story, we've been talking a little bit about the German terror alert, and this is probably the most iconic structure in all of Germany. This is the Reichstag in central Berlin. It's one of the primary tourist attractions in the city. Sections of the Reichstag have actually been closed and restricted to tourists, but the government's saying that that does not mean that an attack on the building is likely in the coming months. Parts of the building now, including the popular cupola viewing area up at the top, have been closed. German magazine Der Spiegel reported that Al-Qaeda-linked militants are plotting to break into the Reichstag and take hostages. But a gentleman who's the head of Western Europe forecasting and exclusive analysis, Pepe Eger, said he did not see any need for a major reassessment of a terror threat facing Germany. He said this is nothing new. Ever since the Germans have had their troops in Afghanistan, they've been on the target list. The Der Spiegel report claims that militants have been planning a Mumbai-style attack on the Reichstag. Mr. Egger dismissed the likelihood of such a plot being taken. He said clearly this is one scenario, but this is a plot that hasn't got anywhere near being conducted. They'd be stupid to try that target now. Egger also noted that something else is helping the fight against terror attacks, and that's the increasing trend of German nationals who had traveled to Pakistan and Afghanistan to participate in jihad activities coming back to Germany. According to Egger, some 30 people have already returned from this hinterland in between the two countries in Afghanistan and Pakistan. And it would appear that not all of the people who've returned are cut out for the life of a would-be attacker. He said not all of them are hardened paramilitary types that are keen on fighting. They typically have family with children. They're not necessarily soldier material. They're not coming back to stage big attacks, but because they can't cope with living there anymore. And of course, they provide us with information. Stock market continues to go down. It's down about 183 points. If we have any breaking news, we'll go back and tell you. If not, we'll see you tomorrow, and thank you for watching.